Imagine a time when Egypt wasn't just ruled by Egyptian pharaohs, but also by a royal family from Macedonia. That's the fascinating tale of the Ptolemaic Dynasty, a period from 323 to 30 BCE.
It all began with Ptolemy I, a clever and ambitious general who served under the legendary Alexander the Great.
Now, Ptolemy wasn't just any ordinary general, he was one of Alexander's closest companions. After Alexander's untimely death, his vast empire needed to be divided, and Ptolemy snagged Egypt, the wealthiest and most sought-after piece of the pie. He didn't just stop at ruling, he founded the city of Alexandria, which became a beacon of culture and knowledge, boasting marvels like the Lighthouse of Alexandria and the Great Library. The Ptolemies had a unique way of presenting themselves as both Greek kings and traditional Egyptian pharaohs, a clever move to win over the local population. However, they didn't fully embrace Egyptian culture. Instead, they brought a wave of Greek customs and people into Egypt. One of the more eyebrow-raising aspects of their rule was their practice of incestuous marriage, often marrying siblings or close relatives to keep the bloodline pure. Under the Ptolemies, the empire expanded quickly, stretching its influence far and wide. But like many empires, it faced its share of troubles, internal conflicts, territorial losses, and natural disasters in the 2nd century BCE began to chip away at their power. By the end, they relied heavily on Rome for military support, which set the stage for Rome's eventual takeover during the reign of the famous Cleopatra VII. The origins of this dynasty are quite intriguing. Ptolemy I, born to Macedonian nobles Lagos and Arsinoe, was rumored to be the illegitimate son of Philip II of Macedon, making him Alexander's half-brother. Whether or not this was true, it certainly added to his mystique and claim to power. Ptolemy was with Alexander during his conquest of Egypt in 332 BCE, a campaign that saw Alexander welcomed as a liberator from the oppressive rule of the Achaemenid Empire. Alexander was proclaimed pharaoh in Memphis, honoring the local gods and respecting Egyptian traditions, a practice the Ptolemies continued. The death of Alexander in 323 BCE sparked a power struggle over who would control his vast empire. His generals, known as the diadochi, meaning successors, divided the territories among themselves. Ptolemy ended up as the satrap, or governor, of Egypt. In a bold move, he even seized Alexander's mummified body, taking it to Egypt to solidify his connection to the great conqueror. This act led to a showdown with another general, Perdiccas, who tried and failed to invade Egypt. The fallout from these conflicts and subsequent power struggles eventually led to the diadochi proclaiming themselves as independent kings in 306 BCE, with Ptolemy firmly establishing the Ptolemaic dynasty. But the story didn't end there. The Ptolemies continued to face challenges, including a series of conflicts known as the Syrian Wars, where they clashed with the Seleucid Empire over territory. Despite these struggles, Ptolemy I managed to expand his domain to include regions like Cyprus, Cyrene, Cilicia, and Phoenicia, laying the foundation for a powerful Ptolemaic empire. The Ptolemaic rulers were adept at maintaining power through a mix of force and diplomacy. They formed strategic alliances with Egyptian elites, particularly the influential priesthoods, to legitimize their rule both politically and religiously. To keep the peace, they settled Greek military colonies across Egypt, which also helped in controlling any potential uprisings. Each male ruler in the dynasty bore the name Ptolemy, while the queens were often named Bernice, Arsinoe, or Cleopatra. Modern historians have numbered them for clarity, but back in the day, they were known by unique nicknames. The Ptolemaic kingship cleverly combined elements from both Macedonian and Egyptian traditions. They used the Greek titles Basileus for king and Basilissa for queen, while also adopting the Egyptian title of pharaoh. On their coins, you could see them wearing the Macedonian diadem, while their statues in Egypt showed them in traditional pharaonic attire, like the iconic double crown. The Ptolemies also cultivated a royal cult, presenting themselves as divine saviors, or theosoteroi. They portrayed themselves as benefactors, building temples, gymnasiums, and libraries, and providing aid to the poor, a practice known as euergetism. They even established a cult dedicated to Alexander the Great, honoring him as the empire's patron god. In terms of court culture, the Ptolemies clung to their Greek roots rather than fully integrating into Egyptian society. Their court was filled with Greek pages, courtiers, and tutors. The Ptolemies themselves spoke only Greek, with Cleopatra VII being a notable exception who learned Egyptian. The Egyptian aristocrats had to learn Greek to communicate with their rulers. The Ptolemies were crowned in Memphis but resided in Alexandria, a city renowned for its cultural sophistication. They were patrons of Hellenistic culture, showcasing their wealth through grand festivals and monumental constructions like the Great Library and the Lighthouse of Alexandria, one of the seven wonders of the ancient world. Ptolemaic royal women were notably powerful, often wielding significant influence and sometimes ruling independently, like the famous Cleopatra VII. The kings had multiple wives and mistresses, and children born outside of these unions could still ascend to the throne. This sometimes led to civil wars as younger children were often named heirs, creating a volatile succession. A unique aspect of the Ptolemaic dynasty was their practice of sibling marriage. Kings often married their sisters or close relatives to solidify their rule. This practice wasn't a traditional Egyptian custom but rather something the Ptolemies adopted and even promoted. The first such marriage was between Ptolemy II Philadelphus and his sister Arsinoe II. This marriage was elevated to a divine status, with the couple being worshipped as sibling gods, a concept inspired by Greek and Egyptian mythology, like the unions of Zeus and Hera or Isis and Osiris. This practice of marrying within the family served several purposes. It emphasized their divine status, setting them apart from ordinary people, and also minimized competition for the throne by keeping potential rivals within the family. While this inbreeding maintained their Macedonian ethnicity, it also contributed to some familial issues, including violent disputes. However, any health problems from inbreeding, like obesity and alcoholism, were likely due to lifestyle choices rather than genetic factors, and the Ptolemaic Empire truly flourished during the 3rd century BCE, under the reigns of Ptolemy II and his son Ptolemy III Evergetes, whose name means benefactor. This era marked a golden age for the empire, expanding its influence into regions like Nubia, Greece, Mesopotamia, and the Red Sea. A key asset for this expansion was the province of Syria, rich in timber and silver, crucial resources for shipbuilding and military expenses. Ptolemy II's daughter, Berenice Syra, married the Seleucid king Antiochus III, which temporarily eased tensions between their dynasties. This union was celebrated in the Ptolemaic, a grand religious festival established by Ptolemy II. However, not everything went smoothly for Ptolemy II. His half-brother Magas managed to secede the city-state of Cyrene, a loss not regained until Ptolemy III married Magas' daughter, Berenice II. Ptolemy II's meddling in Greek and Macedonian politics had mixed results, especially with his support for the unsuccessful rebellion against Macedon during the Kremenidian War. The empire reached its zenith under Ptolemy III, known for his campaign in the Laodicean War. This conflict erupted after the death of Antiochus II, leading to a power struggle between Berenice Syra and Antiochus' former wife Laodice I, each vying for their son to ascend the throne. Ptolemy III marched into the Seleucid capital, Antioch, in 246 BCE to support his sister. Although initially welcomed, they soon discovered that Laodice had already killed Berenice and her son, prompting Ptolemy III to launch a campaign into Seleucid Mesopotamia, capturing key cities. The stability of the Ptolemaic Empire began to wane after Ptolemy III's death. Ptolemy IV Philopator, whose name means father-loving, ascended to the throne. His reign saw significant challenges, including an invasion by Antiochus III, which culminated in the Battle of Raphia in 217 BCE. Although Ptolemy IV won this battle, internal strife soon followed. He and his sister wife, Arsinoe III, were murdered in 205 BCE in a conspiracy involving the regent Sisibius, Ptolemy IV's mistress Agatha Clea, and her brother Agathocles. The conspirators briefly ruled as regents for Ptolemy IV's young son, Ptolemy V Epiphanes, but were overthrown by a military coup in 203 BCE. By now, The Ptolemaic military had become heavily reliant on harsh taxation and conscription policies, which placed significant burdens on the Egyptian population. The death of Ptolemy IV led to rebellions, with figures like Horwenifer and Anquenifer proclaiming themselves pharaohs and leading revolts against Greek rule. Meroitic Nubia supported these rebellions, aiming to weaken the Ptolemies. Meanwhile, Antiochus III and Philip V of Macedon allied to carve up the Ptolemaic territories amidst the chaos. The Ptolemaic army, stretched thin, suffered a significant defeat at the Battle of Panium in 200 BCE, losing its eastern territories to the Seleucids. Ptolemy V eventually married Antiochus III's daughter, Cleopatra I, in 195 BCE, which helped to stabilize the region temporarily. This marriage allowed him to focus on defeating Anquenifer and securing part of Nubia. Ptolemy V also attempted to address the root causes of the earlier revolts by lowering taxes, abolishing naval conscription, and granting privileges to the priesthoods. However, his ambitions to reclaim Syrian territories ended abruptly when he was poisoned in 180 BCE. Cleopatra I then ruled as regent for their young son, Ptolemy VI Philometor, meaning mother-loving. Ancient authors like Polybius often criticized the later Ptolemies for being cruel, lazy, and morally corrupt. However, modern historians attribute the decline of the Ptolemaic Empire to deeper issues like social tensions within Egypt and the better political organization of the Seleucids. Some even point to environmental factors, like droughts caused by volcanic climate change, which may have weakened the Ptolemaic state and contributed to the unrest. After the death of Cleopatra I in 176 BCE, the kingdom was left in the hands of her children, Ptolemy VI, his sister wife Cleopatra II, and their younger brother, Ptolemy VIII Evergetes. Their reign was marked by ambitious military moves, including an attempted invasion of Syria. This effort, however, was met with a swift counterattack by Antiochus IV, who captured Memphis and even crowned himself pharaoh in 168 BCE. It seemed like the end of the Ptolemaic dynasty was near, but then the Roman ambassador, Gaius Popilius Lenas, stepped in. He drew a line in the sand, quite literally, threatening to declare war if Antiochus dared to attack Alexandria. Faced with this ultimatum, Antiochus backed off, sparing the Ptolemies, for now, but the brothers' cooperation soon unraveled. Ptolemy VI and Ptolemy VIII turned against each other, leading to a bitter power struggle. Ptolemy VIII managed to oust his older brother, who fled to Rome seeking support. Known for his intelligence and indulgent lifestyle, Ptolemy VIII also earned a reputation for brutality, which did not endear him to the people. Ptolemy VI eventually returned from exile, leading to a period of uneasy coexistence. In 160 BCE, the Roman Senate proposed splitting the empire. Ptolemy VI and Cleopatra II would rule Egypt and Cyprus, while Ptolemy VIII took control of Cyrene. Ptolemy VIII later made a controversial move by willing his kingdom to the Roman Republic, seeking their protection. Despite these internal conflicts, Egypt experienced a period of relative stability and prosperity under Ptolemy VI. In 145 BCE, he embarked on a campaign into the Seleucid Empire to support his son-in-law, Alexander Ballas, against Demetrius II. However, after being betrayed by Ballas, Ptolemy VI switched sides and captured Antioch. He was even offered the Seleucid crown but wisely declined, not wanting to antagonize Rome. Tragically, Ptolemy VI died shortly after a victorious battle, following a fall from his horse. Ptolemy VIII returned to Alexandria after his brother's death and married Cleopatra II. They had several children, including Ptolemy Memphites, who was born during Ptolemy VIII's coronation in 143 BCE. But Ptolemy VIII soon began a ruthless purge, targeting those who opposed his rule. A learned man himself, he even expelled scholars from the Library of Alexandria who dared to criticize him. In 141 BCE, Ptolemy VIII married his niece and stepdaughter, Cleopatra III, the daughter of Ptolemy VI and Cleopatra II. This marriage only intensified the existing rivalry between Cleopatra II and Cleopatra III, sparking another civil war. Ptolemy VIII and Cleopatra III fled to Cyprus, where Ptolemy VIII, in a shocking move, killed his son Ptolemy Memphis to eliminate any potential rivals. Egypt descended into chaos, with prolonged civil war and droughts causing widespread suffering. Eventually, in 124 BCE, a peace agreement was reached between the three monarchs, bringing some stability back to the country. A lesser-known figure, referred to as Ptolemy VII by modern historians, likely either Ptolemy Memphis or another son of Ptolemy VI, was named king posthumously in a gesture of reconciliation. As the Ptolemaic dynasty continued to fragment, Roman influence over Egypt grew stronger. Ptolemy VIII died in 116 BCE, leaving behind a kingdom deeply reliant on Rome. His illegitimate son, Ptolemy I, inherited Cyrene, which was later bequeathed to Rome upon his death. Cleopatra II's son, Ptolemy IX Sota II, took control of Egypt and Cyprus, facing off against Cleopatra III's son, Ptolemy X Alexander. Ptolemy X made a controversial decision to will his kingdom to Rome, but he soon died while attempting to retake the throne with a mercenary army, leaving Ptolemy IX in uncontested control. Upon Ptolemy IX's natural death, the Roman Senate chose not to annex Egypt outright but instead installed Ptolemy XI Alexander II, an illegitimate son of Ptolemy X, as king. Raised in Rome under the mentorship of the dictator Sulla, Ptolemy XI returned to Egypt and married his stepmother, Cleopatra Berenice. His reign, however, was short-lived. After the murder of his new wife became public knowledge, he was lynched by an angry mob. The throne then passed to three illegitimate children of Ptolemy IX, Ptolemy XII Neos Dionysus and his sister wife Cleopatra VI ruled Egypt, while their brother Ptolemy governed Cyprus. In 58 BCE, the Roman Republic forcefully annexed Cyprus, angering the Egyptian populace. Ptolemy XII's failure to respond to this act of aggression eroded his popularity, leading to his ouster by Cleopatra VI and their daughter Berenice IV. Desperate to regain power, Ptolemy XII borrowed heavily from Roman creditors to fund an army, eventually reclaiming his throne in 55 BCE with the help of the Roman governor of Syria, Aulus Gabinius. From that point on, Ptolemy XII relied heavily on Roman mercenaries to maintain his rule, marking a significant shift in Egypt's independence. Following the reign of Ptolemy XII, the throne of Egypt passed to his daughter Cleopatra VII Philopator and her brother Ptolemy XIII. Cleopatra VII is the most renowned figure of the Ptolemaic dynasty, known for her charisma, intelligence, and political savvy. Unlike her predecessors, Cleopatra made a deliberate effort to connect with the Egyptian populace, even learning their language, something unique among the Ptolemies, who typically spoke only Greek. Her alliance with Julius Caesar, the powerful Roman dictator, was a turning point for her reign. Cleopatra and Caesar's relationship went beyond mere politics. They were lovers and reportedly had a son named Caesarion. This union solidified her position in Egypt and allowed her to reclaim the throne after defeating her brother Ptolemy XIII during the Alexandrian War, a conflict marked by intrigue and shifting alliances. After Caesar's assassination on the Ides of March, Cleopatra found herself in a precarious position. She sought to strengthen her power through a relationship with Mark Antony, one of the three rulers of Rome after Caesar's death. Antony and Cleopatra's partnership was both romantic and strategic. It effectively consolidated control over Rome's eastern provinces and the Ptolemaic kingdom, positioning them as the rulers of a vast territory that included much of the eastern Mediterranean. In a bold move in 34 BCE, Antony distributed large portions of Roman territories to Cleopatra and their children, an act that was symbolically reinforced during a ceremony known as the Donations of Alexandria. This gesture aimed to revive the Ptolemaic Empire's former glory and cement Cleopatra's influence. However, it also strained Antony's relationship with Rome and, in particular, with his former ally and brother-in-law, Octavian. The tension culminated in a declaration of war by the Roman Senate against Antony and Cleopatra, driven by Octavian's machinations. The decisive Battle of Actium in 31 BCE marked the beginning of the end for Cleopatra and Antony. Facing inevitable defeat, both committed suicide in 30 BCE, Antony falling on his sword and Cleopatra famously ending her life, according to legend, with the bite of an asp. Octavian, who would later be known as Emperor Augustus, annexed Egypt, executing Caesarion to eliminate any rival claim to Rome's power and taking Cleopatra's surviving children as captives. The Ptolemaic Dynasty, which had ruled Egypt for nearly 3 centuries, came to an end with Cleopatra's death. Despite their reputation for greed and cruelty, the Ptolemies had presided over a period of remarkable cultural and economic growth. Alexandria, the dynasty's capital, became the heart of the Hellenistic world, a melting pot of Greek and Egyptian cultures. The city was a beacon of learning, hosting the great library and fostering advances in various fields, from medicine to engineering. Even after Cleopatra's death, the Ptolemaic legacy continued through her descendants. Cleopatra Selene II, Cleopatra's daughter, and her son, Ptolemy of Mauritania, lived on in the Roman Empire, maintaining a degree of influence. Some historians speculate that the lineage might have interwoven with other royal lines, potentially linking the Ptolemies to notable Roman figures like the Empress Julia Domna and the Emperor Caracalla. Thus, the Ptolemaic dynasty's story is not just a tale of political intrigue and power struggles but also one of cultural fusion and enduring influence on the Mediterranean world.